Hey, Data Dog Dashers, welcome to another Quick Bite. My name is J. Paul Reed, and we're going to be talking a little bit today about observability, incidents and retrospectives, the new view of safety, and bringing all of this to a weird venue, traffic court. So let's get our story started. Our story starts in beautiful Daly City, California, at the In-N-Out, actually in Daly City. And the Daly City In-N-Out is objectively one of the best In-N-Outs because it is also co-located with a Krispy Kreme. So it's your one-stop shopping for fat and sugar. I'd actually picked someone up at the airport. We were like, oh, let's go get lunch on our way home. So we decided to stop at the Daly City In-N-Out. This is an overhead view of the parking lot in the Daly City In-N-Out. You can see it there, the Krispy Kreme there as well. So we get our burgers. We're kind of fat and happy. We're ready to go home. So I'm going to take make a left turn out of there to get back on the highway. This is the same exact intersection from street level. And so you can see that white car there on the left. This is the direction I'm traveling, and I'm going to take a left, again, to go onto the highway on-ramp to get home. And so I go to make that turn, and suddenly out of my rearview mirror, after I complete the turn, I notice this. By the way, this is the picture of the actual police officer who pulled me over. And I include him in the deck because he has one of the best names I've ever heard for a police officer. This is Officer Directo of the Daly City PD, and actually he was riding his motorcycle when he pulled me over. And so he pulls me over, and he says, "Did you see the sign?" And I said, "What sign are you talking about?" And he said license and registration. Wasn't much for conversation. So he went back and ran everything. And suddenly, while we're sitting there, previously fat and happy on our cheeseburgers, they just become $238 more expensive for failure to obey a sign or signal. And so that put a little dampener in the afternoon. Let's go ahead and revisit the scene of the crime. I'm actually going to be quiet for about 15 seconds here and see what you notice about this intersection. All right, so I actually returned to this intersection about a couple hours after the ticket was written. I kind of got it in my head, I should go back and take some pictures. It's interesting, this is a form of observability, I suppose. And it's one of those things about, we often say observability is about doing useful metrics and observations on your system, not just, capturing everything that you can capture. So I just had a gut feel that I should go back and do a little more investigating. And that's where some of the photos that you see will come from. So let's dig into this intersection a little bit. Just how many right turn only signs did I supposedly not obey? You might have noticed there's a couple that are in your field of view. So that's kind of interesting and weird. You'll also notice that these two signs aren't exactly the same. You'll notice they have different dimensions. You'll notice the font size is different. You'll notice the letters are spaced out a little differently. So that's kind of strange. That actually took me down a rabbit hole where I was like, well, what should a right turn only street sign look like? So I pulled up the California Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. This is 2014 edition. I ended up actually having to dig back through a couple of other editions. It's about 10 hours of my life that I will never get back answering what a right turn only sign should look like. But it turns out that the sign that you see in the intersection there, R11C, California R, has been superseded by R35R in 2003. So it turns out that particular street sign hasn't been street legal for almost 20 years. Okay, right turn only, but where? You'll notice that there's a right turn only sign there, but on the entrance into that other parking lot, by the way, that parking lot is for the Daly City DMV, you'll notice there's a couple of right turn arrows there. So does that right turn only sign apply to me across the street, or does it apply to turning into that intersection? Was kind of weird and clearly confusing. Another question is, who actually owns the sign maintenance here? The picture on the left was taken a couple hours, as I said, when I returned to take all these photos. And then the picture on the right was taken probably about 6 weeks later. I got hungry for In-N-Out again, and it happened to be in the evening. But you'll notice that the day of, the sign is obscured a little bit by this tree. And then, just 6 weeks later, it's even more obscured by that tree. So who's responsible for maintaining that tree to make sure that we, as motorists, can see it and obey it? The street markings want me to do what now? So you'll notice, again, on the photo on the left was day of, and the photo on the right was later, 6 weeks later or so. But you'll notice there's kind of these confusing set of arrows painted on the ground. It looks like the right only turn arrow was painted over by a go straight arrow. So that's kind of confusing, not sure really what's going on there. You'll notice, too, that there's not a set of double yellow lines on the street that would indicate, you can't actually cross those double yellow lines to make a left turn. That's lacking, so it would seem it would be totally, completely fine and normal to make a left turn there. So again, a number of confusing aspects here. So I want to talk a little bit about just the idea of observability in the context of an incident and some ideas around that. So in the context of an incident, especially when you arrive on the scene, the situation is not always what it appears to be. When I rolled up, when the officer stopped me, when I rolled up to that intersection, I had a different idea of what was going on, a different context than the officer who stopped me. Both of them are valid from their perspective, and both of them are important, especially in the context of an incident, but they're different, and we need to acknowledge that. When conducting an incident analysis, the proximity of your incident investigation to the actual incident matters. In other words, closer equals better. If I hadn't returned to that particular intersection to take all those photos, I would have noticed a bunch of things that I later noticed. One of the important things when we think about observability systems like Datadog and other observability tools is we often think to ourselves, I've got this objective data, so it doesn't matter if we don't do the incident review for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. But again, that context that we talked about previously of all of the operators really capturing it and being able to match it up with the objective data that we have is going to paint a better picture of the incident for us. So it's important to do it as close to the actual incident as possible. And finally, remember what the charter of the new view says. You want to understand why it made sense for people to do what they did, because if it made sense to one person or one group of people, it's probably going to make sense to other practitioners too. This is a quote from the Field Guide to Understanding Human Error, Dr. Decker and his work. The new view is the new view of safety, so safety sciences, which we're seeing come up more and more in technology. And sure enough, I noticed when I went back both the day of and later in the evening, people were making left turns out of that parking lot left and right. And so clearly other people were confused by the signage and the street markings as well. So big day, end up going to traffic court. Officer Director was there as well. I present some of these observability findings. He presents his context. But the real question was, would the court entertain this idea of the new view? And it's sure enough, day of, the judge, mine was the only case where the judge said, I will take it under advisement. I was pretty scared. I was like, I don't know what that means. Is that good or is it bad? But she said she'd take it under advisement. And I didn't actually know whether they would or not for a couple weeks. But then in the mail, boom, found not guilty of that particular moving violation. So practice those incident analysis skills because you'll be surprised where they come in handy. By the way, as a little bit of a prologue to this, a coworker of mine happened to go to In-N-Out some number of months after all of this unfolded and found out that they had actually cut down that tree. So I guess someone is responsible for the tree maintenance, but we're still not sure who. That's all I got. I'm Jay Porreed on Twitter.